Welcome to Guided Spirit Conversations. I'm your host, Marla Goldberg. This podcast has been created with you in mind to acquaint you with some of the most incredible metaphysicians and spiritual leaders from around the globe who have helped others change their lives. In this interactive hour, you will be offered insights and techniques to help you make a difference in your life. Don't forget to subscribe to the show in your favorite listening platform. And here we go, on to the show. Hello, everyone. How are you doing today? Welcome to Guided Spirit Conversations. I'm your host, Marla Goldberg, and I want to start out by saying a huge thank you to you because of all of your support, your listening, your participation in the show. That Guided Spirit Conversation was listed in the top 100 spiritual podcasts in the world. So thank you so much. I am humbled and so grateful. And speaking of amazing people, I am bringing back Hollister Rand. Hollister not only is the most beautiful soul and heart, but she's a best-selling author of Everything You Wanted to Know About the Afterlife, but Were Afraid to Ask, which was released by Beyond Words and Atria. And during her last 25 years, Hollister's dedication to the healing work of mediumship has included events and workshops in the United States and abroad. Her work on television includes Tori and Dean, Home Sweet Hollywood, and America Now. Her radio appearances include Sirius XM's The Seance with John Edward on John Edward's Psychic Radio, KOST FM's Angels in Waiting, KBIG FM's Radio Medium, and Coast to Coast with George Norrie. Hollister's first book, I'm Not Dead, I'm Different, Kids in Spirit Teach Us About Living a Better Life on Earth, which is published by HarperCollins and is available in several languages. Welcome back. I'm so excited to have you here, Hollister.
Well, thank you so much. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
All right. Well, my screen looks frozen, but can you see me?
I can see you.
On your screen?
You are moving, you are talking, we are getting
Great.
you.
All right.
Fully and abundantly.
We're golden.
So when we were talking off the air, about things that, catching up, but what we didn't talk about was your spiritual start. Were you aware as a child that you had these abilities, or is it something that was developed as you grew up?
Well, it's both. There's the phrase, mediums are born, not made. Well, in my case, I was born and made. And I think that's really, if we take a hard look at it, that is indeed what happens. We're all born with a connection to spirit, whether we acknowledge it or not. And then it's what we choose to do to develop it that can bring us more into service, or just being more in tune and guided with our guides and angels and loved ones in spirit. And for me, as a child, I saw spirits at the foot of my bed when I was quite young. And I thought everybody saw spirits. So imagine my surprise when I found that wasn't the case. So I shut down and did my best to ignore the spirits in my life until I had a car accident in which I almost died. It was a very serious car wreck. And at that point, I could no longer keep the spirits at bay. And then I had to figure out how to live with this thing of spirit communication and having them in my life.
So who were your go-to people that helped you to realize and actualize and develop? Because you have to hone the skills. It's great when you have raw skills, but you do need to know how to turn them on, turn them off, when to listen, when to say, not now.
Yes. Well, part of it was that I learned, I created my lexicon with the spirits. Like, if you show me this, what does this mean? But as far as learning everything I could, I read everything by Raymond Moody, Hans Holzer. This is going way back. I studied Rosicrucian teachings. I read everything I could about ghosts, spirits, spirit communication. I was interested in Lilydale, which is a spiritualist camp in New York. So yes. I got interested in spiritualism, which is the religious version of secular mediumship. A lot of what you see on television, etc. There is also a religion called spiritualism. and it is based on spirit communication. So, and verifying it, by the way,
Yes.
verifying life after death. So, I got very interested in spiritualism as well. And then I moved out to California and reconnected with people that I had known in college and then met some English mediums. And before you know it, I was a medium.
And were you doing just individual readings, or did you jump into the deep end doing galleries?
Well, I did not want to be an out front medium. That was never my plan. My plan was to help other mediums succeed. I'll bake the cookies and pour the lemonade, so you can do your thing. And it wasn't until a friend of mine said, you need to be doing this. And sometimes other mediums, other healers, other sensitives can really help move someone forward on the journey.
Yes.
Because there are a lot of people who do not want to be out in the public eye. And I was definitely one of those. So this friend set up all my events for me, did all the advertising, rented the
Wow.
spaces, it was crazy. And that's what got me started.
That is a great story that somebody stepped in to not only push you along or nudge you, but to actually be there to support you by getting you on in front of the people. And with your personality, I have to say, it's just such a beautiful, lovely, big personality that I can't imagine you behind the screen.
Did you say a big personality?
Yes, you've got a really big personality. It's beautiful. You're gregarious and you laugh and you just sparkle and shine. And so I just don't think that sparkle could have been contained any other way.
Well, I appreciate that because I don't think of myself in that way. Spirit turns me on. Do you know what I'm saying? They light
Yes.
me up.
Yep.
And so even as we sit here and speak together, spirit is in the midst of our conversation. And I think that's important for everyone to know, which is that when you acknowledge spirit in your life, they are there with you and for you, experiencing life with you. And in that space, our conversations can be informed, can be enlightened, can be uplifting. So it's really a very cooperative co-creating of life with the spirits. And that, I think, is what charges me every day.
We were just talking about your first question in your new book, which just came out in 2020, right at the height of COVID.
Yes.
Everything you wanted to know? Yes, about the afterlife. And we were talking about the first question in your book. And Hollister and I met on a metaphysical cruise in 2018. And we were just talking about the first question that came out in her gallery reading was, Is there
really an afterlife?
Yes.
Yeah. And I was really gobsmacked by that because here we were on a cruise with people who signed up because they were interested in metaphysics or they had a life or they were practitioners or this was, I thought, a very well-informed group of people who had settled the question of afterlife for themselves.
Right.
So it was surprising to me. Now, one of the reasons I named the book Everything You Wanted to Know About the Afterlife But Were Afraid to Ask, the reason there's that last little part is because people sometimes will not stand up in front of a group and
Right.
ask questions like, is there really an afterlife? They won't do it, especially in a group of metaphysicians.
Right.
So I started at events having people write down their questions. And when they wrote them down, they put them in a basket and I would pull out the questions. And it gave everybody freedom to ask the heartfelt questions, the questions they wanted to ask me after the event.
Right.
They pull on me, Hollister, can I ask you, what about suicide? What happens if someone dies with suicide? Where do they go? What happens? Will I ever see someone again? So all of those questions that are heartfelt and needed to be answered that other people would find valuable have ended up in this book. And so, is there really an afterlife? Is question number one.
And there is, because if it
Well,
wasn't,
yeah,
you wouldn't be doing what you're doing, or me.
well, yes, but I mean, the answer, I don't know if you remember how spirit worked with me as I got that answer, because I could have been very flippant. I
Right.
could have said, well, yeah, there's an afterlife, or I wouldn't have a career.
Right.
But spirit is never flippant
No.
because they always go to the heart of the question. And the heart of that question is, does the person I love still exist?
Yeah.
And after I die, will I still exist as me? Am I recognizable? That's really the question. And spirit always answers the real question, not the pretend question. So I paused. And as I paused in front of this group, I saw people's loved ones showing up next to them. I mean, it was really astonishing as I started seeing spirits show up, and they spoke to me collectively to answer this question. And the answer was, there isn't an afterlife. And I'm like, what? I'm hearing this. What? There's no afterlife. What am I doing here? And then the second part came, there is only life. And I stood there and I delivered that message just as it was given to me. So, what that says is, we are one. There
Yes.
isn't a division, those who are alive and those who are dead. There's a continuation, and we're all in it together. There is only life.
And I agree. I'm reading a book. I'm going for my metaphysical doctorate, and I'm reading this book, and it said that when we sleep, it's sort of like dying, because we split. Our body stayed to recharge, but our soul moves to the astral to meet and learn and grow and do what it needs to do. And death is very much the same thing, other than the fact that you never go back to your body. You're just on the other side, growing and doing whatever it is that your soul needs in that process, because there are processes. Do you agree with what was written in this book?
Well, I certainly don't disagree with it. I have traveled during my sleeping,
Hmm.
and I have visited other places, almost like remote viewing. And I think I have even seen past lives, so I've traveled through time and all of that, because there really is no time. There's
Right.
only the eternal present moment. I have also had spirits say to me, I slept my way to the other side. So there are those who go to sleep and never wake up, and they transition in that way. And the reports that they give me is that it truly is a beautiful way to die. So, to be introduced to this other side of life. So, sleeping to dying, dying being a version of sleeping, our consciousness expanding beyond the body. Yeah, all of that is absolutely true.
Well, good. That's great. I mean, because it's correlates with what my paraphrasing of this book. Obviously, I don't do that. Do you believe that you can plan your? I don't know. I'm not going to call it afterlife, because we just realized there's not an afterlife, but in the transition, that you can plan where you go and where people can meet you.
It is all about frequency. In my work, I work at the frequency of divine love. It's a very specific frequency. And at that frequency, the spirits show up. So when I teach mediumship and I work with people developing their sensitivities, I will often have people come to me who were terrified as children, by ghosts, spirits, monsters, devils, whatever they thought they were seeing and experiencing. Well, there are a lot of frequencies, a lot of radio stations in the
Yes.
afterlife, and a lot of different levels. And so, one of the things we can do as mediums and as practitioners and meditators and metaphysicians is to set the frequency at which we meet spirit. So, when I work with people to develop their abilities, we set the frequency and the spirits show up. It's really the easiest way to work. And at that frequency, only the higher level good and loving spirits show up. And so if someone has had a difficult time with someone here on this earth plane, even in situations of abuse and things like that, they don't have to be afraid to speak with me as a medium, because if that person shows up, it means there's been a change. There's been a fundamental change. They have recognized how their lives have damaged and hurt people left behind. And if they can speak with me, they come in love. So we can set the frequencies, the, kind of the love and above frequencies, love, joy, peace, enlightenment, moving in that space. So in that sense, yes, we can set up where we go, even while we're still in the body. There are some religions, I think there's a Buddhist practice of your last thought sets you up for where you end up, so guarding our thoughts, being aware of what we think, and being very present with the idea that we could go anytime, as many people recognized in these last 2.5 years.
Right.
This idea of being ready, being present, being at a high frequency, boom, it puts you right in the space of the higher level spirits.
I love that because it just gives people something to attain, something, a goal to reach for. Changing your frequency, raising your frequency. If you want to have this, I don't know if it's an easier transition, but I'm going to say, because if your last thought is fear or anger or disappointment, it takes you to a different place altogether.
And this
So,
is one of the reasons why I love the practice of singing to the dying.
oh,
So when there's singing, so people in hospice will have little choirs come and sing, this kind of thing. That raises frequency. There are harmonics, it just lifts people's frequency. So when my little dog Bodhi was dying recently, I held him. Now here we are at the vet, right? So
yeah.
there are people all around. I'm holding him and I'm singing to him. I love you, itty bitty, I love you, itty bitty, I love you, itty bitty boy. So I was just singing my lungs out to him, raising his vibration, singing love words to him. I didn't care that everybody else heard it. The whole place got a little quiet, so they were probably wondering who's the nut in room 2. But I was singing to my boy because I knew that as we raised his vibration, it would be an easy transition for him.
I like that. I like that a lot. But you've got beautiful singing voice anyway. So you can definitely carry a tune and do it well.
Yeah, it was a tune I made up about my little itty bitty boy, but he heard that every day while he lived with me.
Your little ones are just so cute. I can't say. So tell us more about your journey as a medium. So what would be one of the most positively surprising outcomes to a reading that you've experienced?
There are many, but one thing that I love to do are gallery events. And gallery events are large crowd events. And the reason I love these events is because you get to see how spirit works independently of the medium. In other words, works in a way that isn't directly attributed to what I'm saying or what I'm speaking or the message that is coming forward at the time. And I'll give you an example of that. I was doing an event in a ballroom in Los Angeles, and I came to 2 ladies and talked about, there's a young man, Nick, they both had a Nick. I mean, I'm hearing Anna. They're both named Anna.
Oh,
Both of their Nicks died in a similar way. I mean, it was the most astonishing coincidence. We were like, what? And both of their spirits were there. Both were talking. It was astonishing. And then one of the young men, the son of one of the women, talked about you know, you don't need to get that hummingbird tattoo. And she stands up and she says, I got the tattoo, and pulls up the sleeve of her sweater or shirt or whatever it was, and shows the whole audience. Well, these women put on my Facebook page afterwards that they didn't know each other. And one of the women was sitting at a different place in the auditorium, in the ballroom, and thought, you know what? I feel like I want to be up closer. Got up and moved and ended up sitting next to the other Anna with the other Nick.
Wow.
Now, that is not something, you know, I mean, maybe I should be here going, wow, I'm some really incredible medium. But what I'm really here about is spirit is incredible. That's why I'm here. And that example shows how spirit works on our behalf and can move to place us in a space where we couldn't necessarily get ourselves. And it's
Yeah.
not always about a message from a medium. It is about how spirits connect us one to another here. And where I'll see that is if someone comes to me who has lost a son with suicide, and I've been seeing a lot of drug overdose spirits recently, many,
Yeah, there's so many.
it's really been quite something. And they'll come in with other names of, other spirits. And it turns out that those are spirits in a support group or, some sort of help group. And so the spirits work together to bring healing to those they've left behind. It's astonishing. I just can't even begin to stress to people how nothing happens on this earth plane without a spirit component. And so when we match our frequency, we allow for these incredible synchronicities to happen.
When people say, well, what do you mean match frequencies? How do you match frequencies? How do you know what frequency a spirit is at that I need to match it? How do you guide them?
Yeah, so I sort of stumbled on that. I used to do ghost busting. And I mean, there was one house, I think it was in Beverly Hills, that was just, I talk about bad energy. And one day I ended up with welts on my leg and like a word kind of etched into my leg. And I went, okay, I'm done with this. I only want to talk to the nice spirits in the universe. No more of this workplace harassment. So I started experimenting with, if I do this, does this happen? And I sat in development circles with other mediums, and we sang to raise our vibration, and we did other things to raise our vibration. But I'm a musician, so I thought, what about music? Well, now there are lots of musicians out there. You can go on an app like Insight Timer and do a search for 528 hertz music, frequency of love music. Once you experience the frequency and work with it, you know what it is. It's experiential. So it does take some practice, but once you're in it, everything is easier when it comes to connecting with spirit.
And I agree with you on that. Now, you're having an event coming up called Loved Ones in Spirit. What is that all about?
Yeah, Messages from Loved Ones in Spirit. It's an online gallery event. So I'm really looking forward to this. We will have people online getting spontaneous messages. All the information is on my website, hollisterrand.com, HOLLISTERRAND.com. And it's a really wallet-friendly way to experience mediumship and see some of these synchronicities and resonance between one person and another who might even be in different states or countries. It's amazing to see how spirit works. And I do also do, smaller groups and private sessions. But yeah, the gallery event is coming up in August. So it's on my website.
So tune in, everyone, for this gallery event. You will not be disappointed. I've seen, I don't know how many galleries was on that cruise, but oh my God. And I love the question, because you use that as a teaser. Is there sex in the afterlife? So I'm going to let you answer that one.
Yes. Well, the short form is this: there is no need for sex in the afterlife. Because what we can have is we can have complete union in afterlife. Sex is a way to join, to
Yes.
feel as one, to create and give an opportunity for new life. In afterlife, we can join energies in a way because there aren't physical bodies.
Right.
We aren't separated by skin in afterlife.
Right.
And so there's the ability to meld energy and join one with another and create this sense of harmony that we don't have here. So there may not be sex in the afterlife, but there's something even better, if you can imagine that.
Intimate satisfaction. I think
Absolutely.
that's what I'm hearing is intimacy and satisfaction through the intimacy. Because a lot
Correct.
of times people join physically, but they're not satisfied. And it doesn't have to do with the technique of the other person. It just has to do with what's going on with them. And when you're when you transition and you're in spirit form, you don't have to worry about that. You're in bliss.
Yes,
It's
there
like
is a
living in bliss.
union that is not possible here, and a knowing and a seeing and a loving that, you know, has some limits here on this earth plane.
So would you say, like, if you saw somebody across the room, or like, as you recognize a profile, and there's like this immediate, like, I know you, though you've never met him before in this lifetime. That's a past life reunion.
That's happening a lot more these days. And Spirit's showing me that with people who will show up on, group events and things like that, or will come together for a private session. I'll see what looks like brackets over people's heads, like they're bracketed, like they're, put in a little category together. And when I mention that, they will often say, yeah, we're friends, but we feel like sisters, because I'll say there's a sister quality here, or that kind of thing. So yes, we are recognizing one another more and more. And I do think it's because of challenges that we're facing on this planet, that groups have decided to come together here and begin to spread a lot of light and love and shift all of the energy here on this earth plane.
I love that. You're shifting the energy because it needs shifting. What's going on now is just, you've got to not let that dark cloud pull you down. And that's energetically what they're trying to do. The great news is light always wins out.
Yes, and when we are connected to spirit and the higher frequencies, we are giving spirit and high level spirits, those who come in love and unity, we're giving them a place on earth when we are connected with them. And that is the beauty of what we do. And that is why things can happen at that gallery event, how two Annas and two Nicks can come together.
Yeah.
Because they gave spirit a place on this earth plane. And spirit, that was the equivalent of shooting off fireworks. Do you know what I'm saying? That
Yes.
was we are here, and we can really do extraordinary things on this earth plane.
Does spirit ever come to you and say, it's like something happens and they say, yep, that's because of me. I intervened. I did this. Do they ever like step in and talk that way?
In sessions, I will sometimes hear a spirit say something like, Mom fell, and it could have been much worse, but I was there holding her. And the sitter will say, yeah, Mom fell down the stairs and we have no idea how she didn't hit her head, because the stairs are stone and, and now we have two railings and now she won't go down without help. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it's less about intervening to prevent death and more about intervening to support life and changes in a trajectory and giving people more choice about how they're going to live their lives. in freedom and self-sufficiency.
I had one
If
of
it were
those. I
all
was
about intervening to prevent death, none of us would die. So that
right,
is, yeah, but it
except when
is
we were too old.
about often giving time, opportunity, to have a little bit extra or that kind of thing.
And it happened to me. I was rear-ended. I was driving 73 miles an hour in a two-seater, and I was hit by a Camry. And instead of flipping or going into a ditch, my car just stopped. I know that was divine intervention because a palmer told me when I was in my 50s I would be in a car accident and would be really bad. And this was the accident, but it wasn't as bad as it could have been.
Correct. That's it. It's not as bad as it could have been.
Yeah, and people go on with that. So, what is your favorite part about being a medium?
Being in service. You know, there are people who are really coming to terms with purpose in life right now because so much has been called into question. In my sessions, I will often see these days, and this is a new thing over the last couple of years. I will see the symbol for crossroads, and I will say, "You are at the crossroads." Spirit showing me crossroads, and the crossroads aren't the same for everybody. Sometimes it's ending of a relationship, sometimes it's a shift in job, sometimes it's a move, sometimes it's a retirement. It can be a lot of different things, but people are reinventing their lives. One thing I can say is I haven't needed to do that. I may change the way I'm doing things, doing things
Hmm.
more online, less travel, that kind of thing. But my purpose has remained the same. In fact, I feel as though my whole life has been leading up to this time where I can be of as great service as possible. So my purpose has remained the same.
I love that, and I love the fact that we all have a purpose. We may not know that there's a purpose. So, my question is, by asking Spirit to show you your purpose, will Spirit start to conspire to bring those experiences to you that bring you an idea of what you're here to do?
Spirits are opportunists. They're always working on our behalf, and they're always trying to find a way to make themselves known. So they're working on your behalf, whether you acknowledge it or not. People do not have to be metaphysicians or spiritualists for spirit to be working on their behalf. It's just the way it's set up. So acknowledgement isn't required for spirit to work in our lives. However, for us to co-create with spirit, now that's an exciting thing. That is really working together. It's like having colleagues, people on your team, knowing who your teammates are. And so in spirit sessions, spirits will show up for someone. Say we have a mother, father, brother, sister in spirit, a grandmother, a grandfather, and a dog. Let's say they all show up for someone and a friend. And then these spirits begin to talk about what they are doing to help in this person's life. Mom was a great cook, is helping this person eat differently. Dad was great with money, helping this person set up a retirement plan. It's really intriguing how spirits will let us know what their jobs are with us. I mean, it's like, what? Division of duties, so it's so intriguing to me. And sometimes what's really interesting is the person who had the great failure on this earth plane with something, or felt that they failed, whether it be with addiction, let's say, uh, or other challenges that they may have faced, or illnesses. They might be unlikely allies in helping someone else overcome an addiction, but that's not the case. Those who have been healed, either before or in afterlife, will help those struggling with the same issues. Who better to help than those who know the issue from inside out?
It's true. An AA sponsor is somebody who's worked the program. You can't be a sponsor and help someone work a program if you haven't done it.
And
So,
so that is why I think it's very important as metaphysicians and even people going through our everyday lives is to not exile certain people in our lives who have gone to spirit. Those who have had the most difficult lives can also bring us the greatest joy.
what about those who have made your life the most difficult? Can they also bring you the greatest joy?
Absolutely. So I'll give you an example. In a session, a lady's mother in spirit showed up, and I heard in my ear a critical sounding voice. Things like, you can't do anything right. That dress, that would look better on your sister, or, like these really kind of nasty things. And I said to the sitter, I said, I have mother here. And I gave a name that I was hearing. And I said, there's a nastiness and a critical sound in her voice. And she said, yes, I don't want to talk with her. I said, okay, I get that, but I work at the frequency of love, which means that there has been a change, but she had to come to me in a way that you would know that it's her. If I said, oh, your mother's here, she's full of love and light, you'd go, that's not my mother. So she had to show up in a way that was recognizable. And then she apologized to her daughter. She had such remorse and let her daughter know that she understood, that she was kind and loving and all of those things because she chose to live in opposition to her mother. And her mother let her know, I have learned how to love from you.
That's beautiful.
I
That
mean,
is
it
healing.
was really profound.
Wow. That is very profound. And it gives you hope that those who have made your life difficult will come back and give their apologies, acknowledge that they know what they did when they were in human form.
Yes. When we die, everybody's heard about a life review. In fact, there have been movies about it,
Right.
lighthearted movies for the most part. But the idea of a life review is not kind of a highlight reel of the best times of our life. My favorite brunch, the trip I took to Tahiti, it's not about that. It is about experiencing your life from the standpoint of those you've loved and those you've wounded. And
Yes.
sometimes those people are the same people.
Yes.
So you really get to experience the pain that you have caused others, which is why I tip very well when I go to a restaurant. I want to be sure that that in my life review, I have some really good feelings coming through.
Well, I don't think you've done such bad things either. I mean,
Well,
there's some
yes,
people
but
who,
there are unconscious things that we do.
yes, there
There
is.
are, yes. And so this is that idea of guarding your thoughts, doing an inventory, really looking at yourself, your beliefs, how you treat other people, and how you treat yourself.
That's the big one.
That is a
That
big one.
that's huge. That's the golden ticket, in my opinion, because nobody treats themselves worse than themselves. I mean, even their worst abusers can't abuse them as much as they abuse themselves. And until they start learning to change their patterns and to stop the negative and limiting belief from flowing in, you're going to continue to have these issues.
Well, the interesting thing with the mother who is critical and the daughter, what the mother let her know is my voice still exists within you. You still hear what I said, and I would like to lift that out of your spirit. That is not an inheritance that you need to keep. So this is the thing, is that we can perpetuate what goes on.
Yeah.
We can take abuse and run with it. And then we think it's just us and it's our personality. Not so. And spirit wants to, kind of rewind the tape in a way, now I'm dating myself. Who even knows what reminding
Tape.
tape is? Good Lord. Okay. But this idea of changing things in the past, that happens with spirit because there is no past, present, and future. They live in the eternal present moment. So everything is malleable, which is a very exciting concept.
It is. And I love the idea that those on the other side who have been difficult to us really want to smooth the wrinkles, you know, heal the hurts on whatever level they can. But that brings me to ask about free will. Now, I'm under the understanding that spirit pretty much is there for you. They're sort of waiting for you to sort of give them the cues or ask for the help, ask for the guidance or the information. And then when I'm hearing from you, makes it seem like they're just still working on your behalf, like little worker bees, behind you. Is there a free will aspect to asking for spiritual support, help,
Always.
guidance?
We can override spirit help. So spirit can be working on our behalf and we can choose to ignore it. And that happens a lot here on this earth plane. And even people who are sensitive will get a message and say, or their intuition will be piqued and they'll be like, no, I'm making that up, and go on their way and realize later, oh, wait a minute, that actually was a message. So we override spirit all the time. We have free will to do that. And we also have free will to help decide how we're going to go, when we're going to go. Dying is not necessarily as fated and destiny oriented as we might like to think, or even karmic. We can ourselves begin to shift the energy in our lives and the trajectory of our lives at any time. And what can ramp this up? So, working with spirit doesn't undermine free will, but it allows you to acknowledge a team and move forward as a group. You've heard of soul groups and things like that. Well,
Yes.
we can move together as a group. It's much more powerful that way. And I'm seeing angels more and more and more, and saw this leading up to the publishing of my book. I wrote the book, and then Simon and Schuster asked me to read the book, do the audio version of the book. And I got to the question about, what are the differences between angels and guides? And I started reading this, and I broke down in tears because there was a phrase which said, I'm seeing angels with ever increasing frequency. This could be due to a threat to life on our planet. I wrote this well before the pandemic. And I got that far, and I said to the producer of the audiobook, I have to take a break. I can't go on. I need to pick this up tomorrow. Because I realized at this point that here I am, the medium. And here I'm getting the message that angels, spirit is here because there's a threat to life on our planet. And I totally forgot about it until I was reading that in my own book. So we all can ignore things and maybe not understand the full meaning of things. But looking back to see how present spirit has been, that is the thing that makes me go, wow.
So when I was talking about free will, I was talking about free will on the spirit side, that they don't have the free will to just intervene autonomously, but you need to call them in or talk to them or, get their wheels moving somehow, that they don't have the ability, except under dire circumstances, to just say, well, this one just needs a little push in this direction, or we need to bring them this or that. Without them asking.
Yes and no. I mean, as far as guides go, very often, and there's the understanding that spirit has given to me, that we set out before we even come here some of the things we would like to experience or deal with in this lifetime, or the things that our soul needs. And so that, in a sense, gives permission to a whole bunch of spirits to help us.
Okay.
So that's already in place. That's what I'm saying. This is These agreements are in place, and it's happening whether we acknowledge it or not, and whether we're living in forgetfulness or not. But spirits cannot override our life plan or our free will. They cannot. So it's not as though they're puppet masters, and are just making us do things. That is not the case. Um, but do they have free will in and of themselves? Yes. But depending on what frequency they're working at, that is what gives them agency in the world.
Okay.
And people will, depending on your personal frequency, you'll be drawn to certain lower level spirits and behaviors or higher level. It's free will, but it's also this attraction of energy, which can feel
Frequency
like
meets
karma.
frequency. Yeah.
Yeah, which may feel like karma, and it may also feel like you don't have control. And oh well, it's just karma. Mm-mm.
Right. Like, what did I do so bad that I deserve this? That I should deserve this? We're going to take a quick break because it's charity shout out time. And your charity is the SPCA.
ASPCA.
AS, thank
Yes.
you. I'm dyslexic this morning.
I'm an animal person.
ASPCA. Yes,
Yeah.
you are. And helping with what they do to help the animal to stop the abuses. Oh my God, the horrific things. So this morning before I got on the podcast, there's a duck. I live on a lake and there's a duck and its foot. Something's, I don't know if it got caught in fishing line or whatever, but it's black. And now the webbing is off the foot and she holds her little leg underneath her. So I called waterfowl rescue and together we've been trying for about a few weeks to capture this sweet female mallard to try and do something. She's going to have part of her leg amputated, but she's in pain.
Yeah.
And it's difficult and it's just heartbreaking for me, for even a duck, to see that. So I just love the fact that there are organizations like the ASPCA that are there for advocating for animals.
And with the duck and with animals in rescues and things like that, there are components and people in afterlife and animals in afterlife who will help with this. So Marla, call in the other ducks, call in the flock, call in the ducks in spirit, to help with the capture and rehabilitation. And you can talk to the duck in your mind.
And I was talking to her. I was
Yes,
talking to her this
that's
morning.
really important, and showing her, help, and the pain is going to stop, and things like that. People will often ask me, has my dog reincarnated? Because we went to the shelter and this dog acted just like our other dog. Has our dog come back to us? And what I will see with dogs and, beloved pets who have passed is they will influence the behavior of a pet at a rescue or at a shelter. If you do this, they'll like you. If you
Yeah.
play with this toy, they'll take you home. It's really funny. It's collusion
It is
at
collusion,
level. Yes.
spiritual
So,
manipulation.
yes. It's really funny. It's so funny to see. And all of my animals have come to me in spectacular ways. And absolutely, it's been orchestrated. And I've gotten you've got to do this, or you've got to get in touch with this rescue, or you've got to ask this person, and boom. And that's how my animals come to me.
I love that. And, I'm planning on after January getting a new one because we talked about how we both lost our babies recently.
Yes.
And, and I've got so many on the other side. They're just like a herd waiting for me, sitting
Yes.
around me because I've been such advocates for them. And people say, I want to come back as your animal, but I want to come back as yours, Hollister, because yours are almost even better than mine.
Yeah, they're just a bit spoiled.
But they deserve to be.
And it's really important that people know that their beloved pets stay with them and we'll let them know that they're around. When Bodhi died, I came home, dropped his carrier at the front door. I couldn't even bring it up the stairs. I just left it down there and couldn't find my littlest Kala girl when it was time to go to bed. I thought, where is she? I thought, she can't possibly be where I'm getting the inspiration she is. And she was downstairs at the front door in Bodhi's carrier, wrapped in his blanket. And then I woke up at 2:30 in the morning with this sound of, chattering. My dog, Amara, talks. She makes almost people sounds with her, barking, growling. She talks essentially. And I came out and she was up against the plate glass window talking at the glass. And I thought I saw a shadow of Bodhi in the glass. And I thought, she's talking to Bodhi. He's right here. So your animals will give you a heads up to having other spirits around you. So if your animal's staring into space and you see nothing, but the dog is there like staring, wagging the tail, going, woohoo, it's so good to see you, know that a loved one in spirit is here. Dogs will also literally run around like they're crazy.
Yes.
And that's often playing with spirit. So know that your pets will let you know that other pets in spirit and other loved ones in spirit are around.
It's amazing how that works, and I just love it. And someone was saying that the cats like looking like they can see the negative energy where dogs are not prone to wanting that.
That's funny. That's funny.
You know how entities go, they stick in together and get all cloudy, and that you'll see a cat like looking up there in the corner. So I don't know if you've ever heard that or not.
Well, spirit does gather in corners, and it doesn't have to be negative, by the way. It's natural for corners, hallways, doorways, stairways, places where energy can be concentrated. So there was a woman who came for a private session, and her husband in spirit talked about how he saw his mother in the corner of his room as he was dying. And the wife said, I would go in there. He would not take his eyes off the corner, up in the corner of the room. He wouldn't take his eye. We would call him by name. He wouldn't move his head. He was fixated on that spot. And turns out it was his mother there. And she was so grateful because she was hoping that it was his mother who had come for him as he was dying. But the interesting thing is, after her husband died, the paint changed color in that area of the bedroom where spirit was. So
Wow.
the heat, the energy, the frequency, whatever, changed the color of the paint. I think it was probably heat, because when I speak with spirits, they raise my frequency and my vibration, and I can get, quite warm.
Right.
So in that case, it was a loving spirit. So it's not necessarily negative in the corners.
I just had a question about, and it just flew out of my mind. So I guess I'm not meant to ask that question. But we're winding up our time. Is there anything, Hollister, that I haven't asked that you want to answer, or you want to share a story or anything?
Well, I think the most important thing to know is that those we love never leave us. And those we wished would love us now can. And those who hurt us will understand that they have hurt us, and that change is always possible. That, I think, is Spirit's overriding message to us today.
I love that. There's not much I don't love of our conversations, but that's really powerful to know, because it makes people feel like I'm not alone, because so many people lose their parents and they're still 10 years later, their heart's still broken because of the connection. And my feeling is the connection isn't broken because they're feeling that way because they're still stayed corded to the energy of that parent or loved one. Would you think that would be a sort of an accurate belief?
Well, I think this is one of the reasons why Inherited pieces of things are important, like jewelry and things like that. It's not the value of things, but it's an automatic connection to the spirit that we love. So when we wear a mother's ring or her birthstone that she used to wear, we are automatically connected with her energy. So this idea of being connected and staying connected, that is absolutely possible. I've been doing it for almost all of my life.
I love that. Hollister, thank you so much for being on the show again. I am so grateful for you and for this conversation because it's so enlightening, and you really quelched a lot of misnomers that I might have been carrying on. And I'm grateful for that. So thank you so much. And I think we're going to have you back again because there's more to talk about. Do you have any books or anything else coming up?
Well, let's just say a lot of questions are answered in this book. And one of the things I like about the book is people can choose the question they want to read the answer to. They can flip through the book, use it like a Google search, and that kind of thing. And it can be very comforting and answer the questions that they were afraid to ask.
So, everyone, please check out everything you wanted to know about the afterlife, but were afraid to ask. You can find it on Amazon. You can get the audio version on Audible. Am I correct on that? In the
Yes.
locations?
Yep.
Your website?
HollisterRand.com. HOLLISTERRAND.com.
But the books can be ordered from you if that be the case?
No, but from Beyond Words and
Oh,
also from Barnes and Noble, and your local bookstore will be able to get it for you as well.
perfect. Thank you so much. I want to thank you. I want to thank Bridget for all you do for me as always. You're my right hand, my left hand, and I don't know what I'd do without you. So I'm so grateful for you each and every day. I'm grateful for you, the listening audience. As I mentioned this morning, as we were starting the podcast, I'm grateful for you helping to elevate the show to being one of the top 100 spiritual podcasts. So thank you for that. Thank you for taking time out of your life, out of your day to participate, whether you do it live or you listen to the audio version that's been uploaded to your favorite listening platform. I do it for you because I want to bring you amazing people like Hollister and the information that they can share to help you in your life's path, to make decisions or whatever it might be for help you might want or need. So thank you. I'm going to be at the Bag Lady in Charlotte on Tuesday, and I will be there from 1 to 5. So you can stop in, say hello, set your intention to ask me a question, and I'd be happy to answer it for you. In addition, check out my website and how I can work with you at Marla Goldberg, and Goldberg has 2Rs.com. And as I let you go, I send you love, blessings, and gratitude. Know how grateful I am that you're in my life in whatever capacity you're in it. For not only are you my student, you are my teacher. And not only am I your teacher, I am your student. So thank you. And I'm going to say these words to you. So if you've heard them already today, you're going to hear them again. If you haven't, let me be the first. I love you. As we talked about in this show, you are loved. You are loved by not only the people in your life in physical being, but by your ancestors, angels, archangels, guides, guardians, your pets. All those on the other side are there supporting you and rooting on your behalf. So please know that. And until next week, I say stay well and enjoy. Take care.